Hi, I'm Chuck Dorsett for Weaver Leather Supply. Segment 8 in our series on stamps, we're going to look at two categories, standalone or self-contained designs, and my favorite, panels. Let's look at some cool designs for these. All right, so anything I use in this video, weaverleathersupply.com, or check below. We've got links there. I'm going to take you straight to the website. Also, if you want to know when our videos release, just click your notifications. You'll know exactly when these come out. So let's step over to our pattern table. Let's talk a little bit. Then we're going to do some stamping. I've been pretty slack about our guidelines or our anchor lines. Anchor is the technical term. I tend to use guide a lot in my shop. But we need a line. We need a way to line these up. But a lot of times we don't want to see that line. Well, with a simple border stamp, if we've got, say, a groove line or a stitch line, it's relatively easy to get that parallel. Well, sometimes we can create a design where we're going to overstamp everything. It's never an issue. But again, not the case and not the case. What we can do, we saw this design last time. All we really need to do here is we need to mark for our basket weaves. So let's take some of our pattern sheeting. Now, all I need to do is drop in the lines on either side. So what's not going to happen is now I won't have a guideline between each of these designs. And in fact, if we look close with our cedar, we can still see part of that line. So easy enough to create a simple pattern. And if we take our time and measure this out, everything's going to be very consistent. And that's the point. But also too, if we don't necessarily need lines, and we're going to see this again here in just a minute, we can simply make a pattern for marks. So now we know where all our tools line up, because that's the big point. The more consistent these designs are, the better they're going to look. And here's just one more example, then we're going to jump over and stamp. So with this pair of arm guards, I'm covering a full panel. Well, that needs to be spot on accurate to look good. So let's start with our poster board. Let's create a pattern here. Now I can lay that out. All I have to do is mark these squares. I know my stamps are going to work out from there. But in all honesty, I don't know which I like better, the diamond or the left to right. They both look good. But all told, we can create all kinds of small, simple patterns because, again, consistency here, that's the point. Let's jump over to our punch table. Let's start working on some cool designs. Let's start right here. So self-contained or just standalone designs. These are going to look great on a wallet or a pouch flap, journal cover, gusset, all kinds of ways we can go here. But we're going to start easy and work our way up. Now, one more point. I've talked about guidelines and anchor lines. But for the most part, I'm not going to measure everything out here. Let's just see what happens. Let's start with this stamp, one of my absolute favorites, because it's easy to get a consistent, very crisp design. It's just a sunburst, our geometric sunburst. But let's drop one right here. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Look how consistent and crisp that stamp is. So I'm going to do 3 more. I like that design already. All kinds of ways we can go with that. In fact, just by itself, that looks pretty good. I love the diamond look to that. Okay, we've got a nice big spot right here. So let's jump over. Here we go. This is a great tool. Now we've got matching lines here. I tend to call this a sunburst, but technically it's a circle burst. But again, another one of my favorite tools. So let's drop this right here in the middle. I'm going to do my best to get that in there. Again, talking and stamping, not optimum. Okay, that's looking pretty good. We're starting to build on this. Now right here, we've got a big empty space. We could always go with a spot. That would look good. We'll come back to that. But let's drop in a flower center. Very cool, getting more and more detailed. Okay, right here. How about a cedar? Let's drop a cedar in on the center of our geometrics. There we go. That looks good. And we can go so many directions with this. And so many of our tools will fit all kinds of places. In fact, I want to try a cedar on the point of each of our diamonds. But let's move on, okay? Another very simple design. And I can't really tell if this is more Western or Victorian. But again, let's start with our circle burst. Okay, good impression there. Now let's jump over to our shell burst, and I'm going to put one on either side. Okay, pretty cool thus far. Now our axe head, we've seen this, but notice right here, notice how that lines up. Very good, okay? Let's drop in 4, one on either side of our shell. But notice here, this curve, that's going to sit right in our shell. That curve's going to sit right on our center stamp. Yeah, there we go. Okay, I'm going to do 3 more. Okay, looking pretty good thus far. How about one more tool? Our continuous mule's foot. Let's drop in one on either end. Well, that looks good. Again, I can't tell if that's Old West, or very Victorian. We can go a little bit further. How about we do our flower center again? Very cool. We've got all kinds of things going there. We may not use this design, but it's just a great way to show how a lot of these stamps fit together. Okay, one more. Let's simply do a corner. I tend to call this a meander stamp, but technically it's a serpentine leaf border stamp. And we've seen this before. Let's drop this right in our corner, and I'm going to do my best to keep my fingers out of the way. Nice impression. Okay, well, cool, simple little corner. How about we take our shell burst? Let's drop this right in the middle of that. Very cool little, just a great little corner. I love the look of that. All right, so let's reset here. We're going to step up to one that's a little more complicated. We're going to need a template for this design. And this is nothing special. It's just the combination of a number of tools just to give us an idea of some of the possibilities. So I've got a template with this one. Now I've got boxes. These are diamonds, but the box itself is simply 5/8 by 5/8, or 1.58 by 1.58 centimeters. Now the cool thing about our pattern sheeting is I can draw out my pattern or my marks on just white paper. I can lay this down. I can see my marks through this. All I have to do is press down. I don't actually have to create a hole because that's going to push that sheeting through. All I have to do now is lay my pattern sheeting on, press it down, and there we go. I've got my marks, if we can see those. Okay, first step. Let's go to our serpentine border stamp. And between each of these, I'm going to put my meander back to back. So let's start right there, and I'm going to drop that right between my marks. Okay, there we go. Good impression. I'm going to do the same thing on the back side. But I'm going to drop that tool right down into the edge of this tool so it looks like one impression. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to do that same thing to the next 4 or 3 marks. Okay, so we've got that design. Let's do the same thing for 2 more diamonds. Okay, pretty cool design already. So let's jump over to our geometric with our thin line in the middle. And I'm going to drop this right in that design, right in the center. Let's do our best to get that as close as we can. Okay, there we go. Look at the detail in that. I'm going to do the same thing for the other 2. Okay, very nice. Let's jump back over to our shell. Notice that just sits right down in there perfectly. Okay, more and more complicated. I like that. We need something right here. How about a veiner or a camo? Well, look at that. Very cool design. I love the detail in the center and the simplicity out here at the edge. Again, just an example of all the ways we can go with these. All right, I'm going to reset. Let's jump over to a shape or two. As for shapes, we can go so many different directions. If we use a little creativity here, we could do a house or a barn or a tree or a cow. In fact, bring your grandkids or your kids into your shop. Give them a handful of tools. They're going to show us what we can do with these. But we're going to do a simple cross and then let's embellish. So with this, we need to measure this out. We're going to use the wire side of our stamp, our barbed wire stamp. So right here, 3 sets. That's going to be 1 3/4 inch or about 4.44 centimeters, maybe just a hair more. If we do an overlap, we've got 3 loops here, 1 inch, 2 back-to-back, 1 1/4 inch, our center stamp, 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch or 1.27. So let's start right here. Let's measure this out. Right on the middle of my panel, I'm going to come down 1 inch. There we go. Now, with this wire stamp, we're going to overstamp any line that we drop in. But our center stamp, not the same case. So let's come down 1 inch. Let's skip 1/2 of an inch. And then let's come down 2 inches. Okay? So there's the beginning. Now, we've got a center spot here. We can always mark that, but I don't want to. We're going to have a stamp there. So let's do our best to line this up. Right on our center mark. There we go. Now, our stamp, 1/2 inch wide. So let's come out 1/4 of an inch and let's do 1 inch line. There we go. Same on the other side. Come out 1/2 of an inch and let's do a 1 inch line. Okay? So there's our center line or our anchor line. Very visible. Going to be easy to work with that. All right, let's jump over again to my favorite tool simply because we're going to use a couple of tools that are going to match. So let's take this, drop that right on our center line. Okay, looks good. Now let's work in each direction. So down here, I'm going to add 3 sets of my stamps. Let's do our best to stay right on that center line. I'm going to butt that, there we go, I'm going to butt that right up to the edge of that stamp. Let's stay right on our line. Okay, let's do 2 more sets. Okay, good thus far. Now over here, let's come out 1 1/2. Which means we can overstamp this. Let's do our best to line up on our center line. In fact, I'm going to jump over on this side. There we go. I'm going to shoot out on that side. Line that up. Okay. This stamp, I can feel that sit right down in that stamp. There we go. Make sure we're on our line. Good. We don't even see a transition line there. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other 2 arms. Okay, so we've got that much going. All right, let's embellish this. I really like this starburst stamp. This makes a nice end. So let's drop that right on the end. And again, we've got so many tools so many ways we can go with our tools. Okay, kind of tying those 2 in together. Let's do the same thing on the others. Okay, so pretty good thus far. Very simple. That's what I'm looking for. But let's embellish a little bit. What do you say we grab? Let's go with a small camo tool. Drop that in each corner. Okay, like how that's coming together. How about we use our continuous mule's foot on the outside of each of our camo? Well, that's starting to look really good. One more. How about we drop a camo in on the outside of each of our loops here? We got to go with a little bit larger, but let's see how that works. In fact, that's going to intercept right here. So let's skip one, move down just a little bit. Looking pretty good. I'm not real happy about that, so let's see if we can work in a camo right there. Yeah, there we go. We've got that squeezed in, but again, looking better and better. So I'm going to do this to the other three arms. So many ways we can go. That is absolutely beautiful. But again, we could change out our end stamps, our center stamps. We could flare our camo on each arm. So many possibilities. All right, well, let's jump over, talk about filling out some panels. This is absolutely one of my favorite parts of stamping because the creativity here, absolutely unlimited. And so many of these stamps are going to look good together. Let's start easy. Let's work our way up. So right here, this is a Serpentine Royal border stamp. We've seen this in the past, but let's do this. Let's back that on itself around a square. So I've got a template made. Our squares are 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch, and then I've got a 1 inch spread between each. So let's just drop in 4. Okay, easy enough to see there. Let's start out with, there we go, Serpentine Royal. Now all I'm going to do is I'm going to back that up and center it right on my square. Good looking stamp. Let's do the other 3 sides. We've got the beginning of a beautiful design. So if we look at it this way, for running left and right, we've got squares. Turn that on its edge and we've got diamonds, okay? Our next step, I'm going to butt against this square, but I also need to double check that my points are matching. So let's drop that on that line. There we go. Let's drop that in. Good. Okay, points match. I'm going to do the same thing on the other 3 sides. Looking good thus far. Let's do our other 2 boxes. Well, that is a good looking design. Now in here, we could absolutely build all kinds of designs to fill that out, but I kind of like it the way it is. But let's do this. On our arm guards, where we dropped in a spot, which I love. I love adding that element. But now let's drop in something else. Who knows? Let's pick up an hourglass. Let's just see if this fits. You know what? It fits in there perfectly. Nice touch. We could do that all the way around. Or let's jump back over to one of our geometric. Equally cool. How about our sunburst? Looking good there. Let's add our flower center to that. All kinds of ways we can go, and so many of these tools will fit together. I love that design. All right, let's reset, jump to a second. We're going to start with my 2 favorite. Both technically border stamps, but in my opinion, these are more geometric stamps. Now we've got a larger hourglass and a smaller. So proportion is going to play into this. Well, a larger panel, I'll go with my larger tool. So let's start right there, because with this, so many possibilities. Okay, so there's our design. Now I'm going to stack this much like I did our Serpentine Royal. That is a cool design. We've got all kinds of things going here. But also right here, we can absolutely leave this the way it is and drop in spots in every one of our squares. But let's look at some of the tools that are going to fill in here. Because again, we've got a good spot right here. Let's jump back over here. Again, one of my favorites. We keep seeing this pop up. But I use this often because it's easy to get a good, clean impression. That's looking pretty good. Let's do that across this aisle. That looks pretty good. Okay, how about over here? What else do we have? Let's try another geometric. Now I like that because our lines are matching. We've got lines running through there that are similar. How about, let's see, what else have we got? Again, let's go with our starburst. And you know what? That looks good. I like that. Again, great place for a spot or an additional stamp. All right. Well, how about our inner areas? What's going to fit there? Well, first thought that comes to mind is our sun. Let's see if we can work that in. Well, like that. That looks good too. How about our Crusader cross? Let's see if this is going to fit. Well, that actually works well. So many ways we can go when we go with just a simple hourglass. But again, can't wait to put this on some kind of a project. Actually, I think I like that best. Okay, let's reset. We're going to jump to our smaller hourglass. Proportion is going to play into this. So therefore, if I'm going with a smaller project, I'm going to go with a smaller tool. But I love the design this makes just by itself. So let's stack some of these out. Well, I certainly like that design. I love this small inner area. But again, we've got some squares. Now, here's a problem with this. We're getting smaller and smaller. So there's not a lot of stamps that are going to fit in. We do have a simple geometric stamp. Well, that's okay. I tend to like this the way it is. But how about we do try one more? Let's jump back. Again, geometric, but it's a smaller stamp this time. Let's see if this fits inside. Now, it's a little large, but actually, I think that's going to line up well. Okay, I like that. I do like that. Let's do another one. I think that's the trick. Right there, the combination of those two. And then right here, actually a spot. I would love to see a spot there. Or if we're just trying to fill up some space, let's drop in a cedar. Well, that looks pretty good. How about a cedar in both of those to kind of tie them together? That's looking good. All right, let's do one more because we've got one that's kind of out of left field. Now, we're going a little bit off script here, but I wanted to bring this up. We've seen this before, but this is one of the really cool things we can do with stamps. So we've got our standard basket weave, okay? How about we do this all the way around? Okay, well, we're losing the look of the basket weave and we're starting to see more of the detail. Again, let's stack a few. I just think that's the coolest design. We're taking a basket weave that we typically think of as simply a basket weave design, and we're turning it into a geometric tool. I love this little square right in the center. We've got our boxes. We can drop all kinds of things in there, right there. Surely something's going to fit in that little cross, but so indicative of our stamp tools. Let's just see what happens. I don't think there's a more accurate statement when we're talking about stamps than let's pick one up and see what happens. Well, we've got a bit of an idea. We're not done yet. We've got one more segment. There are still a few elements we can add to our stamp designs that are going to make these pop. I'm going to look forward to that one. I hope this is good information for you. Good luck with your projects.